When you hear about, for example, the United States military looking for people to serve in special operation forces, you may be thinking the people they're looking for are physical specimens, and that's it. However, they're not just looking for brawn, they're also looking for brains, a combination of both. This struck me recently, that Samson was actually wiser than we gave him, or we all typically give him credit for. A lot of times all we think about Samson is just using brute force. But he was a man who was endued with the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit doesn't simply just give power. Because one of the gifts of the Holy Spirit, in accordance with 1 Corinthians 12, word of wisdom. So go and take a look at Samson. And by the way, the cover image for this video is of Dr. Maron Roll. And one of the things about him, he played football for Florida State University. He was also a Rhodes Scholar, attended Oxford for a little, and then he was drafted into the NFL. A lot of times, for example, when people see football players, it's kind of like Samson. They think about brawn and not so much about brains. With quarterbacks, they usually look at quarterbacks as being smart, but they're not the only ones. And even though there are people who love football enough to play or want to play in, for example, the National Football League, they're capable of doing more. So Samson, he's renowned for his strength, but we can overlook seemingly minute things that points to people's other characteristics given to them by the Most High God. I'm going to start by taking a look in Judges 14. Of course, in Judges 14, it starts off with Samson seeing a woman at Timnah, a Philistine, and he wanted her to be his wife. And he told his parents to get her for him. And they said, how about a woman from Israel? But it was of the Lord, and the Lord was actually arranging that marriage as a way to raise up Samson as his warrior, his judge, to wage war against the Lord's enemies, the Philistines. So picking up in verse 5 of Judges 14. Then went Samson down and his father and his mother to Timnah, and he came to the vineyards of Timnah, and behold, a young lion roared against him. And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and he rent him as he would have rent a kid. And he had nothing in his hand, but he told not his father or his mother what he had done. So a lion attacked him, and he tore the lion apart because of the power of the Holy Spirit. And he went down and talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. And after a time he returned to take her. And he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion, and behold, there was a swarm of bees and honey in the carcass of the lion. And he took thereof in his hands, and went on eating, and came to his father and mother, and he gave them, and they did eat. But he told them not that he had taken the honey out of the carcass of the lion. And his father went down unto the woman, and Samson made there a feast, for so used the young men to do. And it came to pass, when they saw him, that they brought 30 companions to be with him. And Samson said unto them, I'll now put forth a riddle unto you. If ye can certainly declare it me within 7 days of the feast, and find it out, then I'll give you 30 sheets and 30 change of garments. But if ye cannot declare it to me, then ye shall give me 30 sheets and 30 change of garments. And they said unto him, Put forth thy riddle, that we may hear it. This is a part of Samson's intelligence. And he said unto them, Out of the eater came forth meat, and out of strong came forth sweetness. And they could not in 3 days expound the riddle. the riddle is like a parable. How many things did Jesus speak that people would understand because it was in the form of a parable? Even throughout the Bible, God has said things that people can understand. For example, in Genesis 41, the Lord gave Pharaoh 2 dreams. They required interpretation. They were riddles. Now the Lord allowed Joseph to be able to interpret those dreams, the same way the Lord allowed Joseph to be able to interpret the cupbearer and chief baker's dreams in Genesis 40. The Lord used Daniel in a similar capacity, having the wisdom to unlock the mysteries of God. So here it is, Samson, one who's known for his brute strength. And by the way, a lot of people look at Samson and be like, he can't be that wise, because look at what Delilah did in Judges 16. The thing is, Solomon, except for Jesus, the wisest man that we see in the Bible, Solomon. But in 1 Kings 11, he also had some issues with women, but he was still a wise man. So just because Delilah was able to do those things, it didn't mean that Samson didn't have wisdom. So I found it amazing that he killed a lion. Bees made a honeycomb in the lion's carcass. And out of that, Samson was able to come up with this riddle. Out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. After 3 days, the men could not figure it out. That is wisdom. And it came to pass on the 7th day that they said unto Samson's wife, Entice thy husband, that he may declare unto us the riddle, lest we burn thee and thy father's house with fire. Have ye called us to take what we have, or take that we have? Is it not so? So now they're going behind Samson to threaten his wife, for her to find out the answer to the riddle he had given to them. It wasn't easy for them. Again, showing Samson's wisdom. And Samson's wife wept before him and said, Thou dost but hate me. The same words Delilah would say later on. And lovest me not. Thou hast put forth a riddle unto the children of my people, and hast not told it me. And he said unto her, Behold, I have not told it my father nor my mother. Shall I tell it thee? And she wept before him the 7 days, while their feast lasted. And it came to pass on the 7th day that he told her, because she lay sore upon him, and she told a riddle to the people, or the children of her people. She wore Samson down. And likewise in 1 Kings 11, we see towards Solomon's latter years that his wives also wore him down. Now, a lesson we can learn is that if we're in a situation where people are trying to wear us down, for us to do things in accordance with their will, then we need to come out from among them. Do not allow them to wear us down. When you're in a position of strength, use that strength, or you're going to find yourself being very weak. And the things you want to do, you won't be able to do. So use your God-given strength while you have it. And the men of the city said unto him, on the 7th day before the sun went down, What is sweeter than honey, and what is stronger than a lion? And he said unto them, If ye had not plowed with my heifer, ye had not found out my riddle. Even in that moment, it shows Samson's wisdom. It's not like he was figuring out, man, how did they figure that out? The only person I told was my wife. How did they figure it out? No, he knew. So Samson was not as dumb as people sometimes make him out to be. Who can have the Spirit of God and not have a measure of wisdom? I say again, who can have the Spirit of God and not have a measure of wisdom? Now, Jesus warned in Matthew 24 about 4 times he warned against deceit, about ensure that no one deceives you. You can still get deceived, but at some point in time, the Holy Spirit's going to let you know you are being deceived. You have been deceived. And then it's up to you to take the appropriate action after that. Continue verse 19. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he went down to Ashkelon and slew 30 men of them, and took their spoil, and gave change of garments unto them, which expounded the riddle. And his anger was kindled, and he went up to his father's house. But Samson's wife was given to his companion, whom he had used as his friend. Oh boy. Continuing in chapter 15. But it came to pass, within a while after, in the time of wheat harvest, that Samson visited his wife with a kid, and he said, I'll go in to my wife into the chamber. But her father would not suffer him to go in. And her father said, I verily thought that thou hadst utterly hated her. Therefore I gave her to thy companion. Is not her younger sister fairer than she? Take her, I pray thee, instead of her. Now, a lot of people look at Samson as being a womanizer. Being in Judges 16, you see him sleeping with a harlot. Then he got entangled with Delilah. Well, was he really a womanizer? Because here is the father saying her younger sister was even prettier than the older one, and he could have her too. Wouldn't this be a womanizer's dream? And Samson said concerning them, Now shall I be more blameless than the Philistines, although I do them a displeasure. So Samson didn't want the younger, prettier one. He wanted his wife. And messing with Samson's wife caused problems for the enemy. I say again, messing with Samson's wife caused problems for the enemy. And Samson went and caught 300 foxes. When the Lord brought this to my mind, he caught 300 foxes. There's a saying, sly as a fox. And Samson catching 300 foxes. What came to mind is Samson outfoxed the foxes. Again, little things showing about Samson's wisdom. He outfoxed the foxes. And took firebrands, and turned tail to tail, and put firebrand in the midst between 2 tails. And when he had set the brands on fire, he let them go into the standing corn of the Philistines, and burnt up both the shocks and the standing corn with the vineyards and olives. So in a lot of ways, Samson was like a member of Special Operations Forces. He had brawn. He also had brains. And he could back up the words that he spoke, the things that he did. So Samson killed a lion, and when bees made a honeycomb in the carcass, Samson came up with a riddle. Out of the eater came meat. I forget the rest of it, but let me see here. Out of the eater came meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. Another way people misjudge Samson. Why was Delilah commissioned to find out the source of his strength? A lot of times in movies, Samson is depicted as a bodybuilder, powerlifter, or strongman type. It's easy to look at someone who's 6'5", 350 pounds, maybe about 15% body fat, and know why they're strong. But how about someone who's, say, 5'8", 160 pounds, 155? How can that person be so strong? The Lord uses the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. But Samson, even though he made a share of mistakes, like Solomon, he is not as stupid as many people have thought of him. Solomon had wisdom. Because again, how can a person have the Spirit of God and not have a measure of wisdom? Wisdom may not be the person's primary or predominant gift of the Holy Spirit, but the Spirit of God comes wisdom. I pray this message has been a blessing to you. To not only rethink the way you look at Solomon, but also how you view others, other children of God. God bless you, and Jesus the Christ is Lord.